William Hilbrand with us for that. Good to have you with us, Will, for the paper review. The surprise, not surprisingly really, the horrific typhoon in the Philippines, today's top story, isn't it?
That's right, Stuart. It's on the front pages of papers around the world. I'd like to begin with the UK's Independent. On the front page of it, there's a grim photo the day after the typhoon. Let's go to another front page. A photograph of empty coffins on the International New York Times. It says, Philippines reels in the typhoon's aftermath. And from Vietnam, where the storm has already made landfall, hundreds of thousands of people have been evacuated. Nation awaits wrath of Storm Haiyan. And one more from the UK Guardian, a photograph of children looking for coins and valuables with the headline Destruction and Desperation. Inside, the paper dedicates more space to the story with photographs of survivors in the aftermath. A story that's making all the papers, both inside and outside the Philippines.
And presumably also making the papers in the Philippines themselves as well.
Exactly, Stuart. So I'd like to begin by looking at the Manila Times front page. It leads with the Yolanda death toll could reach 10,000. Now, Yolanda is a name of Typhoon Haiyan, its local name, and that figure 10,000 has been floated by local government officials. Now, reportedly, when President Aquino heard this figure, he, as the paper puts it, blew his top and walked out of the disaster meeting. He had heard about the massive devastation of Tacloban City, and he blamed local officials for not being competent to avoid such a high death toll. Now, an editorial within the paper says, "What have you done, Yolanda?" It's a plea for the country to come together and sort of move forward. It says, had they known the typhoon would have been so powerful, the millions, thousands of people would have been forced to evacuate. It says only with a collective effort can the country pick itself up and put it back on its feet again.
And lots of tales of survival as well, inevitably some heartbreaking ones.
That's right. So I'd like to go to the Philippine Daily Inquirer. On the front page, they have a story, a very emotional story. It says, a mother recounts her last words of her daughter, "Ma, just let go, save yourself." This was a woman who was holding her child who was, splinters from a crushed house killed her, and the child died in her arms. But there are many stories like hers, people who thought they were safe and chose not to evacuate. Many of these survivors have guilt about why they lived and their loved ones didn't. If we look at another story within the Philippine Daily Inquirer, it says, this could be the worst disaster to hit the Philippines. If this death toll does surpasses 10,000 figure, it would be essentially the worst disaster for a country which has known many natural disasters. One medical student said, quote, "People are walking like zombies looking for food. The looting has forced President Aquino to send in special forces backed by armored vehicles to help the police in Tacloban City restore order."
So as you say there, Will, could be the worst natural disaster in the Philippines, but the country and the wider region really no stranger to catastrophes, tsunamis, earthquakes, for example.
That's right. We'll go to the UK Guardian one more time. They have an editorial called Weather Warning, and it says how basically, this final death toll, it's not complete, and we may not know for weeks, maybe even months, but by then the world's attention may have already moved on. So the West can send development aid. That's one possible way we can lend a hand. But more importantly, let's get countries like the Philippines, who are on the front line of climate change, involved in talks, who are affected by climate change. There's been no link verified between this typhoon and climate change, but climate change talks are taking place today in Poland, and countries like Philippines are not included in that discussion.
Now, a lot of people also have been scouring social media. Lots of reasons for that, of course. Looking for loved ones, relief efforts, how to make donations. Can be quite tricky, can't it, sifting through all that information, but it could be about to change.
That's right. This is the idea of Swiss-born Patrick Mayer. He says he wants to do what's called social mapping and use a complex algorithm and volunteers to sift through and provide vital information to rescue workers about what they need to do and where they need to go. Now, this hasn't been tested yet. It'll take its first test will be this relief effort with Typhoon Haiyan, and hopefully it proves to be something that rescue workers could use in the future to make the response quicker and more efficient.
We hope so. Will, thanks very much. Will Hildebrand with the international papers here on France 24. Coming up for you, of course, we'll have the very latest on that storm which has been affecting the whole of the Philippines, plus accusations that the UN's climate conference being held in Poland is frankly ironic. Why? Well, the country generates 95% of its electricity from coal, one of the biggest polluters. We'll be reporting in focus in the next half hour. Stay with us.